questions you like, but before we get to that point, I want to share a timeline of the events that have brought us to this point. So in 2021, we engaged with the London Borough of Hillingdon, LBH, about our lease, which was due to end in June 2022. At that point, LBH explained that they needed to do some work on a long-term cultural strategy. And with that in mind, we agreed to a short 2-year extension taking us to June of this year to enable LBH to complete that work. That work never happened. Back in November last year, we worked with council officers to create a paper to be put in front of Cabinet. In the creation of this paper, Trafalgar Theatres made it crystal clear that they wanted to be here for the long term. We discussed 30-year leases and even offered to purchase this site from the council. The paper was clear. Officers recommended that LBH extend the lease of this theatre as there simply wasn't a viable alternative. The paper was due to go before Cabinet in February, but then was postponed to March. Then it was postponed to April, then it was pulled altogether. On the 2nd of May this year, the corporate director of Place visited me here to tell me in person that LBH were backing out of lease negotiations and wouldn't be in a position to fund a theatre anymore. That was just 6 weeks before our lease was due to end. We worked around the clock to rescue that position. LBH agreed to let us stay until the end of the year so we could continue to work to find a solution that protected this theatre. Throughout May, June and July, we sent repeated emails calling out the programme risk and highlighting the fact that we were unable to book shows from January onwards. These emails received no response. In July, we sent a letter to the Council Chief Exec, Councillor Lavery, and other LBH officers in which we called out the critical risk of delay. We also set out that we would make the theatre work on a zero subsidy if the council agreed to a 3-year trial. We explained clearly that we needed an agreement fast, and we set a deadline of the 13th of September for a deal to be done. LBH agreed to meet with us, and we got around the table on the 15th of August. Present at that meeting was LBH's Corporate Director of Property, Corporate Director of Finance, Corporate Director of Place, and Councillor Lavery. They were joined by Trafalgar Theatre's Chief Exec, Commercial Director, Regional Director, and me. Having made it incredibly clear to the council just how committed we were to protecting this theatre, I expected that meeting to go well. Instead, I felt hostility emanating from LBH's representatives. Following that incredibly challenging meeting, we sent across our financial accounts and a report on the condition of the building as requested, and we chased the council for an update in late August, but received no response. On the 11th of September, we wrote to LBH pointing out that the deadline was fast approaching and inquiring if they needed anything else from us. We received no response. We also received no further communication from them before the deadline of the 13th of September, which came and went. On the 14th of September, Trafalgar Theatres wrote to LBH to confirm their intention, as stated in the July letter, that they were now forced to begin exit preparations. On the 16th of September, LBH wrote to offer Trafalgar a 9-month extension and provided them with terms that opened us up to uncapped building repairs risk. This was so far from being workable that we politely declined. Since then, colleagues and I have sought repeatedly meaningful clarity from LBH on the future so that we may share that news with our 100 or so staff and volunteers. We have received none. Now, before we move on to questions, I want to share an extract of the letter sent by Trafalgar Theatre's chief exec to the London Borough of Hillingdon after they failed to meet the 13th of September deadline. On balance, I think it would be very difficult for any third-party operator to countenance operating the Beck without support from the local authority, financial or otherwise. Trafalgar's scale, experience and financial backing allowed us to continue doing so. To consider doing so. We still believe that the proposal we put forward is the most viable, likely outcome for the council, and in our view, would have proved substantially less expensive than you managing the theatre directly, selecting another operator, or mothballing operations. What we put forward was cheaper than closing the building. So, I'm now happy to take questions. Please understand that there will be some confidential information I'm unable to share if it relates to the employment of ex-staff, but aside from that, you can ask me anything, but I am going to sit down.